Hey, Barry.
Hey, Sam.
How's the audio? Testing, testing, testing.
It's fine.
I can barely hear you, so I'm going to change my speakers. One second. I might change to a different device. I'm not getting much sound out of my speakers.
Even from a local source.
No, see, I use a USB hub that has a lot of peripherals plugged into it, and I have a few other laptops lined up here, and I just take that hub and plug it into various different machines, and at some point, some of them get confused. So like I'm supposed to have a nice set of speakers, a nice microphone, and I just switch from laptop to laptop and the camera here. But let me go try and join from a different machine. Give me 1 minute here.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Kayla.
Is it just us two?
Well, Sam is reconnecting from a second machine.
Okay, let's see what this one sounds like. How's my audio now?
This is the same as it was before.
I can hear you.
Okay, let me see if I can hear anything.
Hello? The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
Yes, I can hear it, and it's still not going through my speakers. Anyway, that's as much as I'm going to screw around with this.
Well, you can read the speech to text chat, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm going to turn on AI and I'm going to turn on captions and say hello to you and Kayla. Okay, let me see. Where's captions? Captions, here we go. Show captions.
There's not a volume control on the external speaker set.
There is. I have it at max.
Oh, that's not good.
I can hear, but it's not normal. Maybe it's my ears. All right. It's a Saturday. I
It's a
managed to
Saturday.
get here.
Happy 4th. Happy 6th.
I didn't feel much like celebrating.
It's grim.
I did go to a local event, though. There was a nice event about an hour away at a town called Everett, and they had a local celebrity here, someone who's actually been on the TV show The Voice. She's actually from the place where I live. Her name is Savannah Woods. So she and her band were performing until the fireworks show. So we did go and partake, and the food truck phenomenon. The food truck culture is quite big here in the Northwest. So We had a Venezuelan food truck that I bought food from. So that was
Yum.
pretty. Hey, Kayla.
Hi.
Yeah. So we had arepas
Ooh.
and empanadas and churros. Churros stuffed with something, not the typical empty churros. Anyway, alrighty.
Did you get the email with the video from 2 weeks ago or a week ago, or whatever it was? One with Jack, with Eric and Jack.
Are you talking about Jack Park?
Yeah, I sent you an email with the video upload.
If I did, I have not seen it yet.
I sent it to both of your addresses.
So it was not via Messenger then, right?
Well, not in Messenger. No. I remember I had to upload it to my Google Drive in order to send it. I can give you the date if it helps.
Okay, I think I do recall it. Man, I think I did download it, but I gotta find it and verify. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, once you've verified it, then I can delete it. But let me know so I can delete it off of Google Drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I downloaded it twice because it didn't work the first time.
It wasn't 5 gigs. The reason it was 5 gigs is that for some strange reason, the conversion to MP4 had not completed, and it was still in the Zoom format. So I went back and made sure my computer didn't go to sleep in the middle of.
Okay. Hey, out of curiosity, changing the subject, if I may, what's the temperature in your locales, both of you?
78.
Right
But
now,
it's muggy because it's sort of rainish.
let me see. So right now it's 68.
Ah, nice and balmy.
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
but it's going to get up to 78.
I was curious about the heat wave and whether you guys were affected.
Well, it's been in the 80s the last few days, but not terribly oppressive. Of course, I haven't been outside much.
The good thing about Ventura is it doesn't get too hot here for too long. So it'll get really hot for a couple of weeks and then it's fine. But whereas everywhere else is like in the hundreds or in the 90s. So Ventura is actually pretty good.
So at your house, do you have air conditioning?
No, just ceiling fans and you know, various fans in the room.
Hmm.
Yeah, we don't need it. However, I have to say that the heat came a lot faster this year.
Oh, yeah.
You mean sooner in the season?
Yes,
Yeah.
soon.
See, on the 4th here, it's probably in the low 70s. Very, very comfortable. But in Everett, which is an hour away, where I went to go see the fireworks show and the concert, it was at least 10, actually 11 or 12 degrees warmer.
Yeah.
So it was
Oh,
80s and it felt warmer and it was a lot more humid. It's less humid here on the island.
well, how was the weather like in Mexico? Weren't you in Mexico?
It was low to mid 80s the entire week when we were there.
And
So
no
yeah, it took
rain?
about 2 days to get used to it. But it didn't
And
feel like a heat wave because we were right on the water. In fact, the
huh.
ocean was quite warm. The ocean water was like 82, 83 degrees. So swimming in the ocean, not a problem whatsoever. Jumping in, no chills, no sudden surprise, nothing. It was very warm.
Yeah, I love that the ocean in Central America.
Yeah.
It gets warmer.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
It also causes more hurricanes.
Yeah. I love that heat gradient. Okay, what are you guys interested in talking about today? For the first time in many, 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 many months, I actually have no flight scheduled in the next 12 months.
Really? Huh.
I'm staying put for now.
Okay.
Well, I've got a flight scheduled to Austin, Texas.
Very hot.
Is that more dance related?
No, it's I'm visiting a friend and my son wants to visit Texas. I have to be really honest, it's not really what I would choose. And I'm coming to a point where I'm getting a little cranky because I feel like I'm living for everybody else but myself. Um, I love nature. That's just me. And I think that with the growing population on this planet, and humans making decisions that are just very poor, nature is kind of coming to a close. So I wonder why, with my own kids, there isn't any interest in being in nature. There's more so of an interest in being with other people.
Hmm.
I don't know. I personally have preferred to not be around other people for most of my life. And it's probably because I was always around other people with entertaining. So I guess I'm jaded in that sense. I met a lot of people through my travels and through dancing and everything. So I get kind of sad and disconcerted when nobody wants to go anywhere with me that has to do with a place that's absolutely beautiful, you know. Um, for me a vacation is just to hang out at a cabin by myself for, and be able to look out in nothing, trees, ocean, a river, heck, even at this point, I'd love to look out at like red rocks and sand and stuff. That to me is a vacation. That to me is a lot of fun. But then again, I'm the kind of person that is okay with being still. And I always get really bummed out when I feel like it's just me, that I'm alone, that I don't have very many friends who like would be that way, you know? And if I do, they either live in that destination or that locale, um, or they don't have the money to do that. So, anyways, I digress. I'm happy to go to Austin, Texas and see one of my friends I haven't seen in ages. I'm currently looking at visiting the Congress Bridge Bats and then also going to this famous, excuse me, like natural springs. It's huge. It looks like um this natural springs place. So I'm going to try to do as much nature as I can inside the city. And then probably obviously eat. That'll probably make me happy, is gaining another 20 pounds. So that's what I'm going to do, traveling to Austin, Texas, and living for my kids once again. I don't know why I'm complaining, but I do.
Are they back from Boston?
Yes, yeah. Damien's back from Boston. He was able to witness a live surgery. He said some of it was a little disgusting. Um, so that indicates to me he's probably not chalked up to be a doctor. But I don't know. The convention, by the looks of the pictures, was huge. They were like in a stadium-like setting. And it sounds like he really enjoyed just kind of getting out there and doing things and being around different people. So,
Speaking of nature, there was an interesting story on NPR a few days ago. One of the correspondents went to Yellowstone. And he was with a ranger at night on a moonless night. And one of the requirements of Yellowstone is that outside of the built up areas, there's no lights. So at night, it's super dark and you can see everything in the sky. And the ranger was saying that something like 30% of the people on the earth have never seen the Milky Way and cannot see it because of light pollution. But that particular night, which was a moonless night, the correspondent was just marveling at how many stars could be seen with the naked eye. And the ranger was quite knowledgeable. She had a laser pointer which somehow worked in the air above, and she could actually use it to direct his attention to particular stars. And it was an interesting story about how, and they said that as far as nature is concerned, the night sky is as much a national park as the terrain is. And that was part of the whole thing, is making accessible the night sky in the national parks.
Wow.
I think what we're discovering about astronomy and cosmology and the origins of stars and galaxies is phenomenal these days. I couldn't imagine that we'd be learning so much with a new telescope. And the perspectives are blown.
Yeah, the World Science Festival did a review of some of the more recent developments in the details of the Big Bang, what was happening in the inflationary period and thereafter, and when particles first appeared. There's an emerging theory about how in the so many seconds after the Big Bang, we had the first particles, and which also gets into the dark energy and the dark matter stuff. They're all beginning to form viable theories and then trying to figure out how to test them with available gravitational wave measurement technology and so on.
I
think I'm frozen.
You are. I was
Yeah, you are.
I was waiting for a reaction. There wasn't one. Yeah, you're frozen.
Strange, you can hear me though.
Yeah, I wonder if your Wi-Fi or internet is sluggish.
Okay, I'm gonna shut this down and try a different device. I'll be back soon, hopefully. Hopefully the recording will not be interrupted, but
Your recording is on the first computer. Well, the one that's the one where he doesn't have a camera is where he started, and his speaker wasn't very loud. So he switched to another machine, but the speaker wasn't very loud on that one either. But the first computer is the one that's hosting the session. Complicated.
That's funny. I prefer the night sky illuminating, illuminating the land. I also feel like if it's really dark and we are unable to kind of see that should really be an indication of a time to just relax and stay indoors. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
When I was a lot younger, I used to move in that kind of way. So I had no qualms about going outside and going hiking in the night. And I usually use the moon or the stars to just kind of illuminate the path for me. I didn't find it, some of it was a little scary, but it wasn't tremendously scary. It was just, you just had to pay attention. But when it was foggy or you couldn't see well, then yeah, I wouldn't, obviously I wouldn't, sorry, I'm like distracted right now. Obviously I wouldn't go out, but that's how I used to just like, that's what I used to think of nature, just kind of translate it.
Yeah. You know, living in Metro Boston, we have so much light pollution that you can oftentimes barely see any stars at night, especially if it's a little bit hazy.
I think I missed a little bit of that because I was switching machines, but I think we were on nature and astronomy and appreciating vacations without a whole lot of hassle and stress.
The hazy, lazy, crazy days of summer.
I mean, Kayla, maybe I was resembling one of the remarks you made because I certainly found a place where I'm remote, it's quiet, there's not a lot of people, I'm near nature, animals, raccoons, deer, coyote, dogs, rabbits, birds. Oh, my neighbor, he's got another large place, he's got 5 acres. He regularly buys these 40-pound bags of birdseed and he loves scattering it all over his property because he loves birds. So I'm just, right next door. So I get the benefit of hearing and enjoying a lot of birds flying around.
Yeah.
But no ducks.
The ducks anymore, yeah. The raccoons take care of that.
Oh no. Yeah, I'd been away from the GCC during the time where, between the time that you bought your second property to, you know, I don't know, a couple of months ago, yeah. I didn't hear about your ducks.
Aren't any.
So,
Yep. That was a
boo.
combination. There was some human involvement, coyote involvement, but mostly raccoons, it turns out. Yeah, raccoons they travel in packs and they got to Wade, the very last duck. So I'm not about to invest in any more ducks until I decide what I want to be when I grow up.
Not a duck farmer, evidently.
Nope, not a duck farmer by inclination. I wouldn't be opposed to it. In fact, some neighbors here suggest getting some goats, which would be good for taking care of the blackberry bushes. But I'm not yet sure those goats won't be rushing off someplace else. So until I can find an enclosure or fence off my property, I think getting goats is, again, a temporary measure. The other wild suggestion is I'm learning more about donkeys. I'm learning more and more about donkeys
I'm sorry,
being
that's just
longtime
a
companions.
random.
What?
That's just so random. I
It's
don't know.
not.
I like associating donkeys with something else. Okay, keep
No,
going.
donkeys are great friends of humans, and
You mean the
they're
animal
quite.
kind of donkey, not the.
Yeah,
Oh, you mean yeah? In fact,
of
let's
course.
talk about what that meant to you, Kayla. What donkeys
um,
have come across your life lately?
They're ubiquitous among the human population.
well, donkeys are very friendly, and
Yes,
they're so cute. They're just like humorous too.
yes.
Um, and when I used to like take care of this horse, and I'd go onto the horse ranch, there was always a donkey in the distance that like, you know, what do they do? Um, what is the
They
word to
bray.
describe it?
They
Huh?
bray. They
Yes,
bray.
Meow.
yes. It was always braying to me, but it was so friendly. And you just, as soon as I walked on the ranch, you just hear it from the other side of the ranch braying away.
They're braying to their God, to their deity. They're braying to their deity.
Yeah.
Look at Sam.
Please no, Barry. I was trying to avoid that. I know how tired you get of that topic, so I didn't bring it up. Uh,
Oh God.
but yeah, I mean, donkeys are very domesticated. They're friendly. They're very useful. They help you get a lot of work done. So I've been hearing and learning more and more about the benefits of raising a donkey or two. I'd have to get a paddock over there though and learn how to take care of them. But either that, maybe a couple of goats. Goats are cute too, and they're very useful as well. And they'll take care of my blackberry bushes too.
Do you have any wild animals that are inhabiting your old abandoned duck house now?
I mean, I see deer on the property regularly. I see raccoons walking across the property. I haven't myself seen coyote, but I know they're out here.
But they don't take refuge in the duck house in bad weather.
We have it, closed up.
Oh, it's closed. They can't get in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although we found out that one of the reasons they got to the very last duck is they actually got underneath the fencing of the enclosure,
Yeah.
and so they buried it in. We didn't actually have a floor. We had a dirt.
Yeah. So they burrowed in.
To it. Yeah. So they burrowed in there and got to the duck.
You know, that must have been pretty grim for the ducks.
Yeah. And they took their sweet time. They let Dwayne live in isolation for several months before they decided to have him as the last meal. Anyway, glad to hear you've got some experience with ducks. I mean, sorry, donkeys.
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 I have another experience with a donkey, but I won't put it on tape.
A humankind or what?
Yes, the humankind.
Oh, that's the kind we want on tape. Or at least shared.
Well, a lot of them are in politics, so
It's all positive. No. This is not political whatsoever.
Have a virtual drink, Kayla. Why don't you tell us the story?
Well, I'm so sorry. I'm kind of distracted. I'll be undistracted in a minute here because somebody from Disney reached out to me and asked me to audition for a free movie.
A free what?
They asked me to audition for a movie.
There you go.
I mean, like, seriously.
Did they tell you about the part?
Yeah, it's a Filipino mom.
Oh.
And yeah.
A live actor part.
Talk about typecasting.
Exactly. And they're totally. And they're open to accents, which I have. I can put a Filipino accent on. I make fun of my parents on a daily basis, so obviously I make, So I just like I had to read this email like 3 times. I'm like, is it serious? I had to look at where the email was from. I had to look at the sides to make sure they're correct. And yeah, I'm just hoping that they're okay with, a fat Filipino mom. They probably want that, huh?
You don't know anything about the storyline yet, or the script or anything, I take it.
I do.
What the hell? It's a start to a career. You could play a villain if you wanted. It's a start.
I'm like, shit, I should have just gotten my my roots done. But yeah, I think I'm gonna tape with her tomorrow. So yeah.
And that email just came in today?
It's for a feature film. Hell yeah.
Feature length.
It just came in this morning when I was talking to you guys.
There you go.
So that's where you have to memorize lines. You're not going to be just reading as a voice actor. You're going to be on camera, live.
Yeah, I know. Well, the problem with that is this week I have an event. I mean, it's not a big event. It's a small event, but God, talk about cutting it close. And then Maxwell has a commercial for Little Caesars Pizza this week too, and they haven't given us they haven't told us when they're gonna shoot. So I'm gonna have to figure out some excuse with work, right? Because this is like for what they pay me in a week, they'll pay me in a day.
Nice. Yeah.
You know if it's a bit part or a main character part?
It's just a bit part.
Oh, like a cameo.
It's a start. It's a start. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Little Caesars founded by the guy who paid Rosa Parks' rent the last years of her life?
I hope so.
I'm thinking somebody else.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I know that story.
I could look that up. It's one of the pizza chains. I thought it was Little Caesars.
Okay, good. Okay, now I'm good. This is how like I'm shocked because I sent her like 3 emails when it should have just been 1 email. So
yeah, here we go. Here's a story. Little Caesars founder quietly paid Rosa Parks' rent for years.
Aww.
When Rosa Parks was robbed, Little Caesars founder stepped up. Yeah, I thought I remembered. Yeah. So from 1994, it sounded like, to 2005.
Aww. That's
So
great.
about a decade. Yeah, I like the story. Anyway, I don't have the details, but I just wanted to make sure it was the Little Caesars that I had remembered. And it was. So good. Like that.
Yeah. He's gonna play here's the funny part. I was reading the casting breakdowns and I saw a role and it said it said something effective, like seeking a rail thin teenager to must have comedy chops. And so I jokingly emailed his agent and I said, you need to submit Maxwell because he is totally rail thin. This is his role. And so she said, okay, I'll just make sure that he's on the submissions for it. Normally they would submit. I don't have to contact them for every role. They always just automatically do that. But, they have like 100 kids. So I figured it wouldn't hurt to just remind them. And I didn't hear from them in about 2 weeks. And suddenly they're just like, oh, he has an audition for this. So he auditioned and we saw other kids who were skinny, but not as skinny as him. And anyhow, he went to audition with another kid, this ginger red-haired kid with a mask on. And it just like him and his mom had a mask on and it just made me kind of laugh. And Max goes, I think I screwed up in the audition. And I said, why? And he's like, it was really weird. I just thought it to be really funny. And I was looking into the camera for at least 5 seconds. And he was like, I couldn't stop laughing. And I was all, oh, then they'll probably pick you. Ha ha ha. Because like, neither of us cared. We didn't. We just like thought it was a funny opportunity. And then the kid with the mask had to take his mask off. And I guess he's a bit of a germaphobe because he had to pretend to feed Maxwell while they were trying to bench press. And Max said he got a little too close to his fingers, so the kid backed away. I'm like, oh, they're not going to hire him. So next thing you know, I didn't hear back. And at the end of the day, the following day, they said he's on a veil. So that means they either use two terminologies when they want you, and they're highly considering you and another person. They either call it you're on a veil, which is make sure that you're available, or they're going to pin you. So think about pinning like a photo onto a wall. So I was all, oh, you've got this. If you're on a veil, you're the real thin kid that they wanted. But they ended up choosing him and the redheaded kid, who's a bit of a germaphobe. So yesterday, we did the fitting, and they put him and the other kid in these ridiculous outfits that made them look even scrawnier than they are. But his manager said the reason why fast food restaurants want people who are actually thin is because they don't want they don't want people to know the truth, which is like obviously eating fast food stuff will make you, you know, obese and give you all kinds of health problems. But this particular one called for a rail thin kid as sort of a comedy. So yeah.
They don't feature obese people in restaurant commercials because even though that's
Yeah.
the clientele, it's not a good look.
Yeah. Yep. I would have to agree. But hey, you know, the food that he's actually going to be promoting, or the commercial is promoting, is these crazy pulls, and they're actually really good. So we decided to try it out because my coworker is like, oh, he's gonna be promoting the crazy pulls. He's like, those things are so good. And they're really cheap too. I think there's $3.99 for 4 of these like cheesy things with pepperoni inside. And when you bite into it, it's like mozzarella cheese where, you know, it's real stringy and real cheesy. And he is right. Those things are so good.
What was that second word? Crazy something? What was that second word?
Crazy pulls.
Poll?
Yeah.
Oh, pull. Pull.
Yep.
Crazy polls.
Okay.
Never had one.
Never heard of it, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, try it. I mean, if your body is okay with handling, I'm pretty sure some gnarly cheese.
What a friend we have in cheeses.
Yeah.
Sam did not react.
I'm looking at the hits on Little Caesars Crazy Puffs and Crazy Pulls.
Oh, Sophia's coming.
Yeah, there's something called Crazy Puffs. They also call them Crazy Pulls, Crazy Bread, Crazy Calzone.
Yep.
Okay, found it. Okay, I'll find it. Hey, the other thing that you were talking about was you were selected by some local government group, right?
Oh,
Was
well,
that this past week?
it's not a local government group. It's the Ventura County Leadership Academy. So, um, to to be a part of the Leadership Academy, you have to be in some type of leadership position in business. And what they do, hi Sophia. And what they do is they have 40, or it's usually like 100 applicants, and then 40 are chosen to be a part of a cohort. And the cohort is made up of, you know, for profits, non for profits, you know, you can be like in education, anywhere, any sector, but you just have to be like in your actual business, you have to be a leader. So it's not cheap, it's $6,000. So my organization is going to pay for it, but it's been around for about 30 years here in Ventura County, and they do some really cool stuff. So they said that they usually go places that normally, you know, nobody, no regular person would think about going to, and it's usually related to, you know, the infrastructure of Ventura County. So you visit like educational sites, you visit the Navy. One time they went to see like where the water comes from.
Say the sewage treatment plant where nobody ever goes to visit.
Yeah, yeah. They go to places like that, but then they also discuss the issues in Ventura County and see if they can come up with a solution, or see if they can network for it. So if anything, it's more in networking, but it is really nice that that aspect of learning more about Ventura County. So
So do you also have to do this every year from here on out? $6,000?
no, just this year.
That's awesome. So
I
you can
know.
affect, you know, the way, let's say tax dollars are spent then, right?
Yes. We get to see how tax dollars spent. We get to see like the major issues too. You probably get to see, we'll probably visit the homeless shelters or something. Okay. The casting director is sending me sometimes.
For tomorrow, you're saying?
Yay. Huh?
The times for tomorrow?
Yes.
Right. On a Sunday, no less. Yeah.
I know it shoots on Tuesday. If I get it, oh my God. I don't know. I don't know what to say. But they actually sought me out, which is really strange.
Doesn't leave a lot of time to learn any lines that you have to practice.
Well, it's 3 pages of lines.
That's a lot. Unless they provide a teleprompter while you're on camera, maybe they do.
You know, what's crazy is Maxwell sometimes has to learn 5 pages of lines. At one point, he did 3 different scenes, so 6 pages. And it was tough. It's tough for these kids. Acting is not easy. I know it's a little blown out of proportion as far as the pay is concerned, but I mean, I'm not complaining. But the actors, they really do kind of have to learn a lot.
Yeah.
And learn the timing and the cadence, and they have to learn how to react and make it look natural. They also have to learn, and I told Max this too, learn to get out of character. I said, so if you want to be in character, then that's one thing, but to get out of character is another thing. But so far he's really immature, so it's really difficult for him to get into character. But I know that's what causes sometimes causes like mental health issues is some.
Did we lose Kayla?
Nope, is it me?
You tripped off in the middle of a sentence.
Oh,
Some
it wasn't
was the last word we heard.
Oh, some actors, their mental health, um, they kind of lose it if they can't get out of character. Is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, years ago on a lark, I signed up to one of these remote agent training, actor training kind of things. And I've been paid $49 a month to stay a member of this thing, but I've not taken any of the training. I might start doing that. See if it
Acting?
needs anything. Yeah. See if anybody needs an old Taiwanese guy.
Wax on, wax off.
That knows Tai Chi a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And can speak a little bit of Taiwanese.
Oh, sometimes they need that. I see a lot of casting, especially for well, on the kids side, Taiwanese and Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
Do you speak Mandarin too?
No, only like a baby. No.
Oh, okay.
But I speak Taiwanese like a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, something like that.
Kindergartner.
Right. I can get around in Taiwan on my own, you know, speaking Taiwanese. And, most people understand Taiwanese now. You know, for decades, they were not allowed to speak Taiwanese. But
Really?
it's making a comeback. Yeah, that's also, again, political, so we don't have to go there.
right. I was up till about 3 o'clock this morning, so that's why I'm kind of a little bit in the daze. I barely woke up about 15 minutes before this session started. So again, it's a typically, Saturdays. I don't organize much to come to these things, but it's the Sundays when I try and bring some notes.
I don't organize anything for either day.
Are you guys still seeing any? Geez, I thought I'd see. No, I won't. I won't ask. I won't ask. I'm gonna try to wake up. I'm gonna go make some coffee. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I get up in the middle of the night too. I went to bed really early. And then you wake up in the middle of the night. So I get up for a couple of hours and then go back to sleep.
Yeah. Is that what happens when you get older? I apologize if that sounds offensive, but I only say it because I have not been able to sleep well myself.
I think it's not uncommon when you're retired and older that you have a multi uh, segmented sleep style that you take naps in the afternoon or you go to bed early and you get up early. And so you don't sleep, in one continuous cycle from say 11:30 to 7 a.m. or something like that. I used to do that when I was working, but I can sleep pretty
Yeah.
much any old time. I can even fall asleep just sitting here if nothing's happening. I can be sitting here and fall asleep in the middle of, say, watching a YouTube video or something. And if I'm tired, I go take a nap.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what time of day or night it is. I'll get up in the middle of the night if I wake up and lie in bed listening to the radio if I got no reason to get up. The ups and downs of being retired and senior citizen is that you don't always have enough things to keep you busy, but then you don't have obligations to have to worry about that you're not getting them done. So it's kind of a balance between finding enough things that are worth doing, that you have the motivation to do, and not being bored.
Yeah.
Trying to find a hobby activity that keeps you engaged without being too taxing. I probably should watch old movies, but I never got into watching movies very much.
Yeah. My kids are always wondering why I'm watching documentaries.
Well, I used to watch a lot of nonfiction stuff or consume a lot of nonfiction stuff. Um, Although a lot of it is, there's hardly any point in it anymore. It gets arcane, and where would I ever have a need to have that depth of knowledge in some arcane topic? Growing old is a bit of a strange experience.
It is, isn't it? It's almost surreal.
It is. It is. I mean, you realize how many things that you no longer have the energy or the motivation to do that you once did, or the declining faculties militate against doing activities you once did, and then finding new activities that are realistic. Although I still do fix-it jobs. Like one lady came in with a Chromebook, two Chromebooks, one of which they had dropped and cracked the screen, and the other one was already defunct, but it had a good screen. And she said her husband tried to swap screens, but it was too technical. And believe it or not, I was able to disassemble them and swap the screens and get one of them working again. I thought that was a risky activity, and I guess in some ways it was, but because you can easily screw up a technosurgery job like that, these devices with very tiny parts. Here's Sam, he's back from his coffee making.
I know. I was thinking that's not a bad idea.
So yeah, doing fix-it jobs, although I still have to get close-up glasses because doing close-up work, I'm not in focus anymore. And I haven't gotten around to procuring close-up glasses. That was one of the reasons why it was hard to work on that laptop, on that Chromebook, because I needed to get close in to reconnect tiny little connectors that I could barely see without having them in focus. I ended up using the iPhone to take a picture and look and then blow up the picture.
Are your eyes good enough now that you can go down to the let's say pharmacy and buy one of these $1 or $2 glasses for that closer?
Well, I mean, I was in the CVS some weeks ago, and I searched around until I found the little display of them, and they're like $35 a pair for these, spherical lens, drugstore glasses. I thought that was kind of expensive, but my ophthalmologist says wait for a good 2 months after the surgery before, so your eyes will sort of settle into whatever they're going to be their final configuration. Although I suppose if you spend 20, $30 on a pair, that's, it's not a huge amount of money. But he also said that, you can also go back to your optometrist and get prescription close-up glasses. I'm not really sure if that's going to be necessary for what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, here I am. I'm more than an arm's length away from the monitor, and I can read the text on it just fine. It's reading fine print, 6-point font where you have to get close up. Then I can't do that without using the iPhone to take a picture.
Yeah. It's funny what you said about using the iPhone camera. I've been doing that a lot, to get those little labels on the back of electronics devices and appliances.
Yeah.
They're typically, up against the wall, and you can't really get around to see it, and it's dark. So it's easier to slide a phone in there, take a picture, and then blow it up.
Or if you want to read the model, the backs of laptops, the model number is written in very faint, non-contrasting, embossed font.
Yeah, it's stamped onto the.
You can barely read it normally, but fortunately, you can make it up. And if I have to look up the model to find the YouTube video on how to disassemble some obscure model, we lost Kayla.
That's too bad.
I guess I must have bored her or something.
I think I bored her.
I wonder if she'll be back. Well, it's been an hour. Maybe she's got 10 stuff.
Well, it's fun.
No, she says I have to use the bathroom. Might be back, might not. Lol. That was just 2 minutes ago. It's on the chat.
Well, Barry, one of the things I just noticed was you'd responded to one of the posts, which I think was a nice little post about music, not teaching you about music, but mostly teaching you about yourself.
I vaguely remember some, but I'm not recalling the details.
It was a very, very simple message. It's basically pretty much all
Well,
it's.
learning to play a musical instrument tells you more about yourself. Yeah, because see, I mean, I think when we were in fourth grade, they gave us those plastic song flutes, and that was a total disaster.
Those are
I
horrible.
have
They should
no,
stop doing them.
I have no musical talent. Nobody in my family. We can't carry a tune. Can't play. Don't never learn to play instrument. I could play the phonograph. That was the instrument, or the radio. But can enjoy music. I just have no ability to produce anything musical.
I actually would disagree with you. You know, if you enjoy music, it's never too late to learn to make music. You know,
Well, yeah, I mean, if I had a synthesizer, I could make music, like you make computer code. But, that sort of seems a little artificial. Although I can
a little bit
keyboard.
more removed. You can actually get into the mechanics and the body movement of it. And I think that benefits everybody,
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah, I was watching the Boston Pops, their Fourth of July concert, and they do the close-ups of the musicians on their little featured parts, and you could see them, pushing the buttons on the trombone or whatever, and you could see how very fine detailed the motion of the fingers are. And I go, when I type on the keyboard, I'm nowhere near that precise. I'm mistyping all the time, and that's unrealistic. I can type, touch type, but not very well, not very fast, and not very accurately. So I could see theoretically, you know, coding music like you code computer code, but it doesn't seem like a worthwhile. I would never get any good at it.
You know, the point to learning something is not to get good at it. It's exactly this point about experiencing something else, learning how another pattern of muscle memory, another set of resonances, another set of stimulants
Yeah.
adds to your experience.
Yeah, but it wouldn't entertain anybody else, and it wouldn't entertain me because it would be so, childish, so banal, so uninteresting, so
See, that I
simple.
think is what stops anybody, most people, from learning. They want to be good fast. And that stops people from learning things.
Well, yeah, practice. If you want to get good at a thing, you have to practice it a lot.
Yep.
And I know as a child that I found some things that I could excel at, and that I enjoyed spending the time at, and I got good at selected things that amounted to a potential livelihood or a potential role. And as you age, you're not looking for roles. You're not looking for a livelihood. You're tired, and you want things that are fun and interesting, and not so valuable that you're going to end up earning money at it, doing something that, um, like I cook very elementary, very basic meals, nothing fancy, but I can feed myself. I mean, but I would certainly not. If I was cooking for anybody else, it would be very dull and banal meals.
You actually use cookbook recipes, or
I
do you
use
just,
I used to once in a while, but I don't remember opening a cookbook for probably 10 or 15 years now. I have some recipes that I got out of a cookbook that I learned from a cookbook, you know, 40, 50 years ago that I still make. I make a kind of ambrosia. It's not technically ambrosia, but people tend to call it that because it's a desserty fruit salad.
is that with marshmallows?
Yeah, it's got marshmallows, mandarin oranges, pineapple chunks,
Yeah, those are good.
coconut,
That's good.
coconut and sour cream. It's called a 5-cup salad technically. And nobody else makes it. It was in the Better Homes and Gardens favorite recipes book from the 1950s. And it's the one thing that I will make if it's a potluck and you bring something. It's the one thing I'll bring that enough people will enjoy eating that they never get any other time. But I used to make chopped liver too. But, nowadays chopped liver is sort of not very healthy, even though used to make fabulous chopped liver, 40 years ago. And people wouldn't mind eating, chicken fat with onions and calves. I used to make it with calves liver. That's what made it good.
Speaking of which, I've ordered liver and onions at restaurants a few times, and I've been told nobody else ever has ordered liver and onions.
Well, I remember as a child, it was our least favorite dish that was an quote unusual, that you wouldn't make it all the time. But if you use beef liver is not healthy. You have to use calf's liver. And I haven't even tried looking for calf's liver in the meat department for probably 10 or 15 years. But I used to make it once in a while. And I had some friends who enjoyed it. But, it's like I'm saying to Kayla, the downside of growing old is finding worthwhile things that are still within your bailiwick, within your capability that's worth doing and not too taxing. And it's a shrinking set of options that.
Well, let me ask you this. I just minutes before getting onto this session on YouTube saw some clickbait. I think it's clickbait. It's about the return of Oumuamua. Have you heard this?
Return of, say that name again.
Oumuamua.
Oh, that inter solar system thingy. Return of it?
Interstellar visitor.
Yeah, but that thing was on hyperbolic trajectory.
And we thought it wouldn't be back for years, but they say it's.
I can imagine other things on hyperbolic orbit. There's going to be hyperbolic visitors, hyperbolic orbital visitors. But if it was really hyperbolic, it's not coming back. That's sort of a mathematical. So anybody who wrote that probably doesn't know their math.
Or I caught an old, like I say, it just was in passing. It might have been an old thing.
Maybe they mean the reappearance of something similar to it. But yeah, a lot of things that people imagine are mathematically ruled out or scientifically ruled out, but they don't have the math or science to know that it's exceedingly unlikely, if not mathematically impossible. I mean, people still argue about Bell's inequality, and they don't know the math. They just simply are reciting, what's in the literature, which is a lot of horse-dookie, baloney, malarkey, and bunk.
I find real easy to debunk is these pictures of multiple rainbows.
Well, there are dual rainbows. They're not.
Oh, yes, but not if they're not concentric.
Oh, yeah, they have to be concentric.
Right. Yeah. So if you see these multiple rainbow pictures, clearly fun stuff.
Well, yeah, and people have these AI manufactured images which look realistic, but they're not, but they're synthetic. And
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They also have these images of famous people either in unlikely poses or wearing unlikely garb. And you look at these and go, that's not a real photograph. That's an AI representation of that person. Looks just like them, but they would never dress like that or be in that pose and allow it to be made a public photo because it's either too risque or too something, too outre or whatever the right word is.
Yeah, they've mastered clickbait.
Yeah. And there's all of these sponsored items on YouTube, not on YouTube, on Facebook that are clickbait that they give you a long lead in, like a better part of a paragraph, and then right where you sort of get the punchline, it ends. And I just X those out every single time.
I hate those. They're time wasters.
Yeah, that's right. Total waste of time. They don't even include the clickbait material. They never resolve it. It's just baloney.
Yeah. Like this clickbait title that I saw about Oumuamua said, it's returning and bringing visitors.
Oh, yeah. It's total horse dookie.
I didn't click on that one.
Yeah, it's baloney. But disabusing people of misconceptions, it's probably a fool's errand. A lot of the time it is a fool's errand to try to disabuse people of their misconceptions. I think maybe there's times when it's meaningful or significant, but most of the time, okay, just let them believe some nonsense. It's not going to cause any damage to the ecology if they believe some
We're
nonsense.
getting close to that dangerous topic again, Barry.
Oh, well, yeah, I suppose.
So I will not respond to that.
Well, I mean, the one that people still argue about is free will, whether it exists or not. And that's more, I think, more philosophical, but maybe it's also definitional. I think you can believe in it or not believe in it depending on how you define it. And you can elect to define it so that it definitely exists, and you can elect to define it so it doesn't exist.
Are you going to let me respond to that one, Barry?
Am I going to? Well, I have responded in the past as I define free will, I give my definition, then it exists, and just let it go at that.
To me, it's not even that deep. To me, it's like, how are you going to live? If you live, there's almost no way to live other than say, yes, of course I have free will. I can determine the course of my life. Because if you do not believe that, and you believe that, oh, everything's just predetermined, that I have no responsibility, and let me just go out and just drink all the time or kill people, there's no way to live. That's not a way to live. The only way to live is as if you actually do have free will.
Well, I mean, if you do engineering or optimization, you say, what's the best practice? Can I eke out the best practice, and then can I reduce it to practice? Can I implement it? And then I get the best outcome. And the decision to search for the optimum is a choice, or you can just I'll suffice it. I'll just do something that's sort of standard and acceptable, but we know it's not the best, but it's too much work to find the best. But people who succeed will find build a better mousetrap. They'll find a better way to achieve some objective, and then they'll develop a product or a service that is the best available, and then they'll have a market for it. So, yeah.
I'd rather talk about needs rather than markets.
Yeah, I mean, people are always looking to achieve some necessity more efficiently, or better performing, or longer lasting, or some superior version of a necessity. And that's your entrepreneurs basically are going to take a risk to invest some time and effort to develop something. If that isn't an example of free will, I don't know what is.
And what would it look like to live if you truly did not believe in free will? What would a life look like if you really believed that?
I think you would just do whatever feels good at the moment, and without regard for the long-term consequences.
But are you then choosing that hedonistic item or whatever that is?
I think it's by default. I think you're choosing the thing without choosing. You're not setting options before you and then reckoning the options. You're just simply automatically doing the thing that seems most or least onerous at the moment.
Okay, so you're either turning off the cortex or you're turning off the middle brain, going all the way back to the animal, instinctive primal.
Yeah, you're just doing the instinctive thing without regard for any expectation for the long-term outcome. And systems thinking is always looking at the long-term systems outcome. That's wisdom is all about doing the thing that may be more difficult in the moment, but in the long term, people buy the cheap item and then it breaks. You buy a cheap hot water heater, then it breaks and floods your basement, and that's foolishness. So going for the cheapest, quickest, junkiest choice, and then you end up with bad health or some long-term downside that you didn't bother to reckon.
I really do need to watch Sapolsky again on this topic before I say anything more.
Yeah, well, he definitely believes it doesn't exist, but the late who's the Tufts philosopher who just died? Why can't I remember people's names? Dennett, Dan Dennett. he wrote a book way back, I think in the 70s or 80s, The Varieties of Free Will Worth Wanting. And it was based on feedback control theory. That if you look at the mathematics of feedback control theory, you want to be able to be, cybernetics, you want to be able to steer your ship of state in a way that leads to reaching your goal and not failing en route. And that's it's worth wanting to cybernetics. And basically he tied in feedback control theory cybernetics into the varieties of free will worth wanting. And I think in the last 5 years or so of his life, I think he wrote a revised edition of that book. But I haven't I'm not gone looking for the revised edition.
So let me ask you about this. As a modeler of human beings, okay? If we say this thing between our ears ingests information, ingests state around us.
Yeah, senses environmental
conditions. And then can choose among a variety of actions and follow-up or decisions or plans or responses or whatever, okay? Then is that free will? Because you could argue if you and I were in the same, almost exactly the same identical situation, and we're ingesting almost exactly the same set of information, and we had almost exactly the same upbringing and almost exactly the same education, etc. Is it so predetermined that you and I would make the same choice?
No, because it's whether we can reckon. If you want to take a risk, you have to be able to reckon the likelihood that you can take the risk successfully. And if you can't reckon a risk, you'll probably err on the conservative side, and therefore not do well. The risk taker is the one who takes a prudent risk. And calculating a prudent risk is a calculus that involves knowledge. You need a system model that says, if I do something that's risky, do I have enough resources to succeed in this risky adventure? And the better you can reckon that. At Bell Laboratories, I used to do system modeling to find ethical or to find best practices for managing the network so that you could achieve the goal within the resources and constraints at hand. And that constrained optimization, that's model-based reasoning, and that requires not just a brain, but a brain that's well-trained to do model-based reasoning in a calculus and have any confidence that your calculus is reliable. Otherwise, you'll be very conservative and not try anything that could fail catastrophically.
Barry, I may not actually follow through with it, but my intent sitting here at this moment in this conversation with you compels me to say I'm going to watch Sapolsky's free will material today, and I'm going to try and come back with some assessment of it or some interpretation of it or some response to it in tomorrow's session.
Yeah, look for his definition, because just to say free will and leave the definition not nailed down.
Yes.
Because definitely define it so that it doesn't exist, and you can definitely define it so that it does exist.
Right.
And if he doesn't define it, then he's tacitly adopting a definition such that whatever he's defining can't exist.
Yeah, I doubt that he would do that. I think he's an academic sufficiently experienced that he would define those terms first.
I mean, I think I can't remember the exact wording of my definition, but the capacity to make and enact choices consistent with one's knowledge and values. I think that's maybe the exact definition I wrote down some years ago. The capacity to make and enact choices consistent with one's knowledge and values. So the finer your knowledge, the better you're able to make a choice that otherwise you wouldn't have any idea what the outcome is going to be. You simply are in the dark. And that's why having knowledge, I mean, you can say how important your values are. That's personal, your value system.
Really?
But the knowledge is the variable part. and choosing to become knowledgeable so that you can make wise choices, that to me is the key aspect of free will. I choose to become educated. I choose to become aware, or I allow myself to be oblivious. I think there is a drive to learn, but there's also a discipline, a rational decision to do the work of learning. And I think that is a free will choice. I mean, some people choose to become well educated, and some people choose not to. When they have they can walk away from an opportunity. I can't remember who it was. Might have been one of the famous scientists. Didn't have access to a good public school, so he spent his youth in the library. He just basically read everything in the library and got a pretty damn good education in the library. Today, you can get a pretty damn good education on the internet if you bother to attend to the educational content. I attend to Sabina Hassenfelder and the World Science Festival and Numberphile, and I choose a bunch of content that demonstrates quality thinking, quality educational content, and I stay away from the clickbait baloney that's nonsense. I try to it's like the protocols of the scientific method is try to first try to falsify something before you spend any time. The first thing you want to do is see if you can definitively rule something out, so you can narrow down the possibilities to the ones that are plausible, not ridiculous, and might make a prediction that's testable.
So let me give you a perspective of what comes to mind when you're talking about that in me at this moment, okay? So you take a baby lives till, I don't know, let's say 90 years old, okay? But in the first several decades, they're pretty much trying to learn how to be in this world. They're learning about the way the world works. They're learning about society. They're learning language. They're learning about their motor skills. They're learning about their
bare necessities of survival. They learn the bare necessities of survival.
So all of that is basically within or for the purposes of that being, that entity, that organism, right? Yeah. Because you could say that for decades, it is very unlikely that it comes up with new contributions that are fundamentally novel. Now, there are obviously exceptions, kids doing really phenomenal stuff at 10 years old, whatever, okay? But the vast majority are just taking care of survival.
Yep.
And the more you move into the later decades, the more you've perfected your craft or gained some perspective. So you might be able to say, do kind of boat building nobody has ever done before, take care of plants the way nobody else has ever done before, come up with a new mathematical result that nobody else has come up with before. It's less and less about survival, but more and more about new things, because
it's about innovation.
Take care of yourself.
At some point, innovation becomes an option that you can expend some resources in eking out an innovation.
Right. But my point here is about, and it may be an irrelevant one, but it's about efficiency, It's about decades being wasted reattaining what the rest of previous civilization has already attained, okay? So in other words, we already have wheels, we already have levers, we already have pulleys, but every entity has to learn how that stuff works in the first few decades of life. So it's only after much expenditure of energy, time, effort, pain, etc., that one can then say, okay, I understand more or less how things work. Now let me strike out on my own and contribute to society and come up with something new. It's a hugely redundant waste of energy, it seems to me.
A good example.
These organisms come. So let me finish this idea first, okay? What if the way we evolve from here on out says, and this is a demonic thought, okay, that when we are learning, we have some kind of technology, okay, some kind of, I don't know, cyber interface to the brain that allows us to learn much, much quicker, that doesn't require 2 or 3 or 4 decades, that basically allows our brains to assimilate or at least tap into the collective knowledge and wisdom and experience and history of past generations.
Yeah.
And that then we could then waste less of life in reconstructing what everybody already knows,
yep,
and more of life experimenting with what's new.
Yeah, pushing the frontiers. Spend more time pushing the frontiers and less time meandering toward them.
Yes. So there's a thought in one of Frank Herbert's books, Dune, obviously the most important one, the first one, that says this entity, this little girl who was born with all the collective knowledge and experience and history of all the previous ancestors that she had, they call her, you remember what they called her?
I didn't read the book, so no, I don't.
They called her the abomination.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yes. They called her the abomination because that was so much knowledge, so much history, so much experience that she never got to form a self, a notion of self.
Huh. She was an almanac. She was the information please almanac. That was her
Kinda. You
role.
could think of it that way. But it was interesting that Herbert decided to call her the abomination.
Yeah, that's interesting. But that wasn't a self-chosen name. That was a name that was assigned to her by others.
Well, it wasn't necessarily even one that was used. It was just, the one that was used in the book to refer to him. Okay. So I'm thinking if we have this kind of way to learn and assimilate knowledge and waste less time doing it and spend more of our lives really doing new things, would that be a good thing?
Well, I think if we had more leisure that was pleasurable and not destructive, I think that would be a boon because you would have spent less time and energy getting to the point where you have leisure.
But wait, we have that today. People today, when they have leisure, they actually indulge in it, right? They watch Netflix 24/7. They, go out and get junk food, and they're not necessarily pushing the boundaries of whatever knowledge or domain might be available for them to explore.
Yeah. But also there's a niche of recreational problem solving, recreational mathematics. There are people who spend their leisure time
a small subset of
doing
people.
intellectual things.
Right. And I think it would be wonderful in your mind, in my mind, probably, if people chose that, right? But we can see right now that if you take a look at how widely available entertainment is, let's say the Kardashians, right? Or Netflix or whatever, okay? And you look at how much that draws people's time and energy and attention versus people getting onto OpenCourseWare, getting onto Coursera, getting onto Udemy, getting onto whatever these things are. You can see there's a disparity, right? The choice of the masses is they know more about Kardashians than they know about, JWST.
Yeah, Sagan used to complain about that all the time.
Obviously, yes. So we've got the situation you just described, right?
Yeah.
And people are choosing otherwise.
And most of the population do not contribute to the advance of civilization. They're basically a sea anchor. They slow down the advances.
Wait. I also think that's going too far, right? Because civilization, the way it's structured right now, requires that we have people doing the mundane, doing the necessary.
You need the infrastructure.
Picking up trash, growing food, building infrastructure, building roads, picking fruit. We do still need that.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily pushing the boundaries of civilization. That's keeping it going.
Yeah, but you're being good at your job, doing your job efficiently. That's important because you don't have to spend a lot of public money doing the infrastructure jobs inefficiently. having everybody sweep the streets with a broom. I mean, obviously that's ridiculous.
Because here's the flip side. I'm going to take the devil's advocate on this position, okay? Which is already today, whenever new technology becomes available, it gets introduced to the market. People introduce it before it's quote unquote mature, before we really understand the second and third and fourth order effects, okay? So that the first mover gets the greatest profit potential, right? That's what compels people to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, get the
So
patent.
arguably, we don't do enough meditation or pre-consideration of the implications of change before introducing it to society. And if we had more people innovating and coming up with new stuff, there'd be even less time to assimilate all that change and look at the what ifs and really, do those simulations and do those, model extrapolations. We'd just be introducing change, and there will be, in some sense, to the extreme, that would be, and to use your words, okay, chaotic.
Yeah, you might get more chaos, and that's the law of the jungle. Is a lot of that chaotic stuff is going to self-annihilate. You'll get an increase in self-annihilation. So evolution will run faster, but there'll also be an awful lot of things going. What's the word?
Awry?
No. How come I can't remember words anymore? Defunct. When a species goes defunct, what's that called?
Extinct?
Extinct. Yeah, we have a lot of extinction. How come I can't remember words anymore? That's annoying.
So I'm still asking, how do we strike that balance between enough novelty and too much novelty, or not enough novelty?
Good question. I think the answer is we find it poorly. We strike that balance poorly. Because whenever there's things out of balance, you get a restoring force, but the restoring force can struggle against the chaotic behavior for a very long time before the restoring force manages to bring things into balance. Things can get way out of balance, way out of whack, very, very far before there's a revolution, an awakening, an enlightenment.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking these questions is I had a thought this week, maybe worthless, but I'm going to write it up a little bit, which is we now today have the technology to do some of this extrapolation and system modeling and simulations more than we had in the past.
Absolutely. We've got faster computers.
Not just that, we've got these language models, we've got these technical data sets, we've got quote unquote these algorithms, that's not even a good word for it. We've got these capabilities now that can do this. It doesn't require human brains solely to do this. We now have technology that can augment us.
And NASA and the National Weather Bureau and lots of organizations.
Right. They've been doing it for decades with weather, but now
they're pushing the frontiers of simulation modeling and mathematical modeling. But they tend to be rather exotic, highly educated technicians.
So I'm thinking I'm going to write this up as a way to essentially constitute this thing called GlobalSIM, because the technology to do it now is here. And we can use it to advise innovation and technology advancement and practice advancement and look at implications of things, not just strictly from RFC, let me know what you think, but actually do a smart RFC, not just a request for comment, but request for informed comment.
Request for simulation. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Based on these extrapolations. Okay. I think that's worth writing up.
And a lot of the gaming culture is pushing the frontiers of simulation, because you can simulate imaginary worlds as well as simulate realistic worlds. And of course, a lot of the entertainment is simulating fantasy worlds, which is great for entertainment. But the technology for simulation is evolving, whether you're doing fantasy worlds or realistic worlds.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. With what NVIDIA is doing and what Intel might be doing and IBM's doing and TSMC, it's really incredible. That might be my next focus. because GlobalSIM technology is here.
You know, I really began my career with simulation. As soon as we had computers in the 1960s, one of the first innovative applications was simulation modeling. And that's because we had mathematical models in science and math and physics, but they had to be analytical models that you could solve by hand. And the ability to do probabilistic simulations and other Monte Carlo simulations and other kinds of simulations where the analytical models were not solvable by hand. That was a big breakthrough in the applications of using, calculating the orbits according to Newton's laws. That was simulation, but that was tedious and slow, but it could be done by hand because it's analytical.
Yep.
And then a lot of things became beyond the capacity of calculations by hand, where you had to basically do so-called number crunching.
Right. In fact, I think it was the first instance I recall myself coming across a solution that was enabled by technology, not previously done, using just brain power, was the four-color problem, map coloring problem.
Yeah, that was looking at lots and lots of cases. I think that was
because using computation, you can look at it exhaustively.
Yeah, case-based reasoning and exhaustive enumeration. That was one of the easiest low-hanging fruit with computers because you could do exhaustive enumeration for problems that are too big for a human, but still small enough for a machine.
Right.
They weren't elegant. They were, just examine every conceivable case.
Force. It was brute force.
Brute force. And that was an advantage of computers in the early days when you didn't need clever algorithms. Then you got to things like factoring large numbers where you did need better algorithms and needing better mathematics. But gradually the algorithms got more and more sophisticated, eliminating the need for brute force in cases where you simply didn't have the time or the memory, whatever, for brute force.
Yep. Yeah, I think I got to write this up. Yeah. It's about time.
But look at the rapid growth of computation, communication, transportation, the efficiency, the speed and efficiency of computation. That's probably would be the leader of the pack. And then maybe the communication technology would sort of be close behind computation. Not so much for transportation because you're moving massive objects around. So you still have the energy of physical motion. But moving bits around, moving information around, there was orders of magnitude improvement in lifetimes in less than a century.
Yeah, this is thinking differently for me.
Still, the hard part is artificial wisdom. Being able to anticipate the long-term consequences and use that to make wise choices in the here and now. Look at how many choices we made that ran out of steam, that upset the ecology or used up resources to the point where they were no longer viable. We had to discontinue them. In a lot of technologies, we had to discontinue them because they were.
We're still making these choices. Look at the use of coal.
Yeah, well, there was the ozone layer with Freon, and there was the burning of fossil fuels, and I don't know. There's probably a whole long list of consuming resources, but was not sustainable. These learning to know what's sustainable before you've reached a crisis.
Single-use plastics.
Yeah. Now they're learning to make bioplastics out of seaweed or whatever, that will degrade, still have enough durability for one-time use. short time use and then degrade and go back to nature, break down into their constituents in a reasonable. I mean, nuclear energy, we never really conquered that one. You know, the waste
We might still
products.
need it for some time.
We'll still need it as a backstop, but I think, did Germany discontinue nuclear power? I think they did. Well, here's Zoom.
They did. All I know is they've been investing a lot into solar.
Yeah.
And marketed the hell out of that.
I mean, solar sort of makes sense because we have orders of magnitude more photons arriving on the Earth than we need to make electricity and energy. We just have to learn how to harvest those solar photons more ubiquitously, more efficiently than we have so far. And I think there's lots of opportunity to improve solar photon capture and conversion. I mean, plants did it with the chlorophyll, from the very beginning.
It's so amazing to me. We still don't understand chlorophyll.
Well, we do, and we think that there's some quantum mechanical effect in the functioning of chlorophyll that's not well understood.
That's because we don't understand it.
Yeah, it's true. I don't. And there's also there's the phytoplankton, the blue-green algae, which is not chlorophyll, it's something else. But it still captures photons and uses them to drive the biochemistry of building molecules.
That cross between biology, organic chemistry, and material science applied to synthetic chlorophyll would be an awesome thing to study.
There are people at MIT and others are working on synthetic leaves, synthetic photosynthesis, using algae and other stuff, but they're not making very much progress compared to, let's say, solar cell technologies, and then energy storage that goes with that.
But I think that's a promising direction to go if we really want to get to, let's say, a Kardashev level 1 civilization.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to get to Kardashev 1.
But I'd prefer to go that direction than all these other inefficient, ecosystem destroying methods.
I think we can learn to harness the energy that impinges on the planet or is innate in the planet. Probably in this century, we can probably learn to. Was that an animation you just did?
It's an effect, yeah.
Oh yeah. One of those are rocket ships.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an animation that's part of Zoom now?
I guess so. I just saw it there and clicked on it.
You did it's a Zoom thingy, huh?
I don't know. I just was gonna raise my hand and I clicked on reaction and it had a heart and I went, that's new. Wonder what this does.
Oh, I see the hearts. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's a new reaction.
There you go.
Yeah, the thumbs up used to just appear in the upper left, right? But I guess now it floats through this entire screen.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can just raise your hand if you want. It still has the.
No, I mean the thumbs up, not the raising the hand.
I didn't realize that they had added these animate. I guess maybe they were there. I just never attended to them.
I've never seen it before. Not before today.
I was just going to share with you, if you are going down this line of thinking, you should call it Dig VJ, Diggy. That's his job as material science. He's working at Ashoka University now. He got a fellowship.
Although, if you want to sort of catch up on the latest news on energy technology, Sabina Hassenfelder is one that I would attend to because she's putting out science news practically every day now, multiple times a week. And then there's others like her that are covering frontiers. But she's a good critical thinker. She will tell you whether or not it's bullshit or whether it's promising or whether it's good science or sloppy science, and whether she has any faith in it or not.
Yeah, I like her. Did you guys see the Terrence Howard, Eric Weinstein interview this last week?
I did not.
I'm not going to pay attention to
Okay.
Terrence Howard.
What? No. What about Eric Weinstein? Do you not like
I don't
him
want to pay
either?
attention to him either. He's full of shit also.
Wow. Okay. Well, fuck both of them. They can go
Exactly.
suck a duck.
The
I've
ones
seen
that have
enough of
these
those
really, the
guys.
ones that have these podcasts that last for 90 minutes, I just don't have the stamina to sit through 90-minute podcasts with Schmackenberger.
If you do, why would you pick those two? Either of them. Yeah.
I know they're stupid, fucking idiots.
Oh, well, if they're idiots, that's all the more reason not to waste time on them.
Yeah, they're retarded. Both of them. One's a black guy. One's a Jew. Fuck those people. Sorry, I don't know. I just was going with your energy, Sam. I don't know where you're going with that.
That wasn't where the energy was coming from.
I don't know. Well, they're dumb. I don't know where's the energy coming from. I don't know what we're not interested in them because they have no.
You see what Terrence Howard was claiming?
I did, and I also saw a person put him in his place.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was obvious it was wrong. So why pay attention to it at all?
Well, because it wasn't all wrong. It was 90% wrong. Could have been 80% wrong. Could have even been 99.9% wrong. But if there's 0.1%,
what part of it was correct?
What the part with the linchpin?
Which was what?
Which was changing the angles of 6 different vortices so that could be used for making flying machines. Quite fascinating. Yeah, you can look it up. Just type in Terrence Howard's linchpin and it'll pop right up.
Hey,
I think the reason I'm interested is not because of who they are, but because of what conversation they're creating. That was what was interesting, is they're creating a conversation about science and getting more people interested in science. I thought that's the whole story. It's not about Terrence Howard or Eric Weinstein or Joe Rogan. It's about, let's talk about science and get people interested and move the needle that way. And it worked. They got, more than 10 million people interested just on YouTube alone. And on all the other channels, there was at least 20 million, if not 50 million people interested globally.
The one branch of academia that I would like to see somebody figure out a way to introduce better is combinatorial logic. There's a branch of mathematics, it's a formal branch of mathematics called combinatorial logic. And it has to do with things like combinators, like Y Combinator. And there's a niche of people who understand it, but I haven't yet come across any really good introductions for the general public on the mathematical discipline of combinatorial logic.
I've tried to talk about it, and people, as soon as you say the word combinatorial, they eyes glaze over.
That's the whole point. It may be too hard.
They hear mathematics, logic, and combinatorial, and their eyes glaze over.
Yeah, and so I know that there's this branch. I know that it's powerful, mainly because of Raymond Smullyan introduced it. He tried to introduce it to the general public with his book, To Mock a Mockingbird. But I never wrapped my brain around it. Even with that book, I never wrapped my brain around it. And it's an opportunity if somebody like 3 Blue, 1 Brown, Grant Sanderson, if he could do something with it, he might be able to make a breakthrough in introducing, or maybe Numberphile, the other video that does mathematics.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of videos on set theory.
Yeah. Well, set theory turns up, believe it or not, in Sudoku. There's a couple of interesting theorems, the famous Fistonafel theorem and similar ones in set theory, set equivalence theory. Turned out there was a big breakthrough in solving Sudokus using set equivalence theory. And I think that Sudoku, you could crack a lot of Sudoku with the tools of combinatorial logic if you had facility with the tools of combinatorial logic. I think they're doing it at sort of kindergarten level. They're doing combinatorial logic with coloring the squares and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's brute force, right? That's not reasoning. You can do that with basically brute force to
Well,
solve.
but they are using reasoning. I mean, they will make sequential logical deductions, but it's kind of, in a sense, the logical deductions are haphazard, not systematic with a methodology that you might get out of combinatorial logic if you had it.
Why would they have to be haphazard? You can make hard reasoning decisions about what the constraints are, or at least I don't understand the problem
It's
there.
what to look at next. You have this tableau that's half developed, and the thing is what's the next thing to look at where you can make a gain, and you don't know in advance that if I look at this square and reason about it, I can make a gain. If I look at that square, it's not ready yet. It's not right
But
for me.
you don't have to do it that way, though. The whole point is you can actually consider it in parallel and only pursue the ones that are promising.
The humans can't do that. Humans basically
Humans can't, but we have the brute force technology now that can.
That's letting a parallel computer do it.
Yeah.
And in fact, the viewers will watch a video where, let's say, Simon Anthony is focusing on this square, which is not the one to look at, and the viewers will be, no, there. I can see that if you look at this one, you can make a gain. And so the viewers are seeing the one that Simon's not yet looking at before Simon gets around to looking at it. Even I can see spots where he's missing an incremental step because he's looking in the wrong spot for a little while.
Now that's interesting what you just said, Barry. If you're looking in the wrong spot, you can't see that logical step.
Right. And very often, I mean, one of the pleasures of watching him solve it is occasionally seeing something before he sees it. Because most of the time he sees it before I do. But once in a while, I or another viewer will write in the comments they saw something well before Simon saw it and made a lot more progress because they figured out where to look, or they discovered where to look before he did. Even though his logic is very precise, very rigorous, if he's looking in an infelicitous spot, then his logic isn't getting him any gains.
Which was exactly my point about that Terrence Howard and Eric Weinstein video.
They're always looking in the wrong spot.
Well, they're having the wrong conversation, and that was what I got most out of that. Is let's have the right conversation, and it takes time to do that. You can't do that in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's like jigsaw puzzles. All the work is at the frontiers, but the frontiers are distributed. So which frontier is the one where you're going to make the next incremental gain? And
that's what the conversation was about. That's exactly it. Eric Weinstein's been trying to have that conversation since he started the Portal podcast.
Yeah. But we're not good at parallel processing, although the subconscious sometimes is.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you say what I'm focusing on is where my subconscious is off in a processing where I'm not paying attention to what my subconscious is doing, and then the subconscious will find something and some neuron will light up, and that will draw my attention to where the neuron lit up.
I think that was most of Carl Jung's work.
A lot of
to
it.
try to understand that. Yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
Okay. I'm going to acknowledge that I possibly was premature in dismissing Terrence Howard. So I would like one of you to at least give me a reason to believe that his fundamental claim, 1 × 1 = 2, I believe it is. That's the way it's been represented. If he wants to make such a claim like that, and it's basically either redefining or going against all of established mathematics, then to me, that's enough to, not make me interested. So I'm coming back and saying, let me give him a chance. What is there really behind his claim that 1 × 1 = 2? What makes me compelled to actually follow that up some more, if there is a basis to it? That's what I'm trying to ask. Should I be interested in that?
That's a great question. That's exactly what the conversation was about. And what I got at the end of it was there is nothing behind that claim, and he should shut the fuck up and stop saying that because he's confusing people. And it's coming from a place of almost trolling the establishment to see if they'll go with him on alternative thinking. So that's his little troll to say, if you believe what I'm saying is true, 1 times 1 equals 2, then we can have the other conversation. And so he got chastised for doing that. Don't do that. That's rude.
Which is what I gathered at about 0.7 seconds, so that's why I'm not interested in
I get
following up.
I had the same feeling when I first heard him. But I think what was interesting about him is that if you go down that avenue with him, then he wants to start questioning other things. And
But that if never
maybe,
applies. It's a vacuous statement,
yeah,
right?
it can be, but
Definition of vacuous statement. You know what a vacuous statement actually is in definition?
you tell me. I
That's
don't
just
know.
If then
I heard the word vacuous. I'm assuming vacuum. So you're sucking something in to the point where
empty.
there's nothing
here's the
left to talk
definition.
about.
It's an if-then statement where the if clause is never true. Okay? So if the if
Right.
clause is never true, the statement is meaningless. Okay? So if the if clause is never true, it doesn't matter what you say after that.
I get that. Logically, mathematically, it makes no sense. It's illogical. It's stupid. It's retarded.
Yeah. If there is no such thing as general relativity, that is, there is no such thing as gravitational gradients, then Bell's inequality is true. But we don't live in that cosmos.
Right.
Our cosmos has gravitational gradients. We have GR.
Right. And the reason I bring that up is if we're talking about vacuous statements, the then part is completely irrelevant and meaningless.
If nonsense, then any nonsense.
Yeah.
There's a more curious one where the sum of the harmonic series is said to be -1/12th, and that had Ramanujan and other mathematicians kind of going around in circles trying to figure out where that came from. And there's a couple of mythology videos and other videos about this harmonic series summing to -1/12th that were popular for a while until they figured out, how to evade the seeming equality in that series. It even got into Riemann's work too, but it's arcane.
Where does that? I'm curious where that word vacuous is. That coming from the word vacuum, or where's
it's
the
empty.
etymology of that word?
Devoid of content. Devoid of
right.
content.
So it's devoid of content.
Devoid of meaningful content.
Okay, so I have a question. Is fiction vacuous? If you say a statement that's fiction, and it's fiction,
and you can tell any story. You can tell any imaginary fairy tale, fantasy story you like, and it's entertainment, but it's not the ground truth.
Right, but could it lead to the ground truth?
Well, it can lead to insights. Fairy tales are designed to lead to insights.
I'm saying like Einstein's famous thought experiment. If you're going at the speed of light in a spaceship and you look at a mirror, that's a vacuous statement. You can't go at the speed of light.
Well, yeah,
that's false right there. That premise is false. So why even listen to the rest of his statement?
It's using paradoxes to figure out what you can construct that's not paradoxical.
Yeah.
Paradoxes.
I'm not trying to get you upset, Sam, by the way. I'm just trying to understand.
I'm just trying to clarify that there is a difference. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Tell me the difference so that I understand communication.
By definition, okay? If you accept, but definitionally 1 + 1 or 1 × 1 is never 2, okay? Then there's never a case. It's logically invalid, okay? Now, the statement you cannot travel at the speed of light, that's not logically invalid.
Well, photon can.
That's physically improbable, but not logically invalid. Okay. So that's the key difference.
Yeah. It's that a massive particle can't. A neutron can go almost the speed of light, and a photon can go the speed of light, and a gravitational wave can go at the speed of light. But a massive particle, because of the Higgs field, cannot. Higgs field is what it's like the molasses that slows down a mass particle that has mass. And that's a little bit mind-blowing, because until they introduced the Higgs field and the Higgs boson, that notion that you can accelerate to the speed of light was basically nothing more than Einstein's model. It's all you had to go on. You didn't have any other insight.
Yeah. I personally want to break out of the this is what's true, this is what's not true, therefore we should not go down these avenues of falsities, because it'll lead us down a road of I don't know, vacuous statements, or I don't want to think that the world is static and we can never make a breakthrough. That, I guess, was what I'm trying to say.
Politics is full of vacuous statements. People make all kinds of non-axiomatic assumptions as if they were axioms, and then try to derive laws and regulations based on nonsense. And they do that all the time.
Yeah. Do you think M theory is nonsense?
I don't know enough about M theory and brains to be able to pontificate on that stuff. All I know is that the mathematics has not yet led to any solid theory. It's mathematical activity that remains unresolved at this point.
Yeah.
And you can make up mathematics which don't correspond to physical reality. Wormholes are mathematically permissible in GR, but they probably don't exist in the actual cosmos.
Well, what I found interesting is Terrence Howard was trying to build off of the work of Walter Russell, who's an artist. But then there's a scientist named Charles Dennett, who also restructured the periodic table. And I didn't know that. So I learned something. So it was worth it for me to spend the time to learn something new, because that alone was interesting and brought me to other thinking. And I enjoyed that.
I mean, what I would like to learn is how to dispel misconceptions.
Well, I thought that was a masterclass in dispelling misconceptions. I thought Eric Weinstein gave quite the masterclass.
Yeah, but I find, I mean, I'm not just the only one. I think in science, dispelling misconceptions in science is sort of the name of the game. Falsifying incorrect hypotheses is the fundamental activity, and they're very hard to falsify. You can have a perfectly plausible misconception that is pervasive and people believe it until somebody figures out how to do an experiment to rule it out. And even then, you don't rule it out, and then it becomes a big controversy whether you really ruled it out or there was some way to save it.
That's an art form too, learning how to do that.
And I don't think even scientists are very good at artfully employing the scientific method to definitively, decisively rule out incorrect theories. Incorrect theories tend to have a life of their own, even when the evidence, experimental evidence, is overwhelming, that the models don't make correct predictions.
Yeah.
That basically is a question of what is good enough. See, we don't ever have certainty, but we do have a notion of what is good enough.
Yeah.
And we can keep changing that if we want to, okay? But good enough in one case about, can I make apple crisp? Or can I make it good enough? Versus, does the Higgs boson exist? What does good enough mean in that case, okay? Very, very different, okay? So you have to look at the domain in which you're actually operating and say, okay, what are your levels of standard and belief and credibility in one versus another?
And how good is your
all these things about one more statement? These incorrect theories and incorrect statements, they're not supposed to be deleted. I don't think we should ever delete that. Just like phlogiston, just like Terrence Howard, just like anything else. They need to be a part of the record. Because as part of the record, we know what part of our reasoning either supports or contradicts.
Well,
and if any of that network of reasoning changes, then there's an opportunity to reevaluate.
Yeah.
But until it changes, you can say, this is likely, that is not likely. And that is as good as we can do, in my opinion.
Yeah, finding ways to test things. Some of these experiments are very ingenious to rule things in or out. And it's hard. I mean, people who come with these experimental ideas and then actually, like the gravitational wave device, the LIGO, I mean, that was conceived of and worked on for something like 30 years before they figured out how to actually build one that was going to work. So some of these experimental approaches are very ingenious. Like, who would have thought of building that kind of a detector that can reliably detect something that was only envisioned mathematically?
And to make observations at 6 months apart.
Oh yeah, yeah. The parallax
That's
of
right.
Using the orbit of the Earth as the diameter of the parallax.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and most people don't have that kind of mathematical faculty or insight. I mean, very few people do. Not just most people don't. It's like, one or two people, in the history of civilization come along with that idea. The Michelson-Morley experiment, which ruled out the ether drift. That was pretty ingenious. And the Millikan oil drop experiment, that electric charge comes in quanta, that was pretty ingenious.
I don't know that one. What is that?
The question was whether electric charge could be divided forever, or whether you get to a single unit of atomic charge below which you could not have any smaller unit. And Millikan did an oil drop experiment where he had drops of oil falling, and he would get an electric charge on it with a plate that would balance it against gravity, so it would just hover. And he found that he could get down to an oil drop with one electron or two electrons or n electrons, but never less than one. And he was able to measure the smallest non-zero charge that you could attach to an oil drop. And that's called the Millikan oil drop experiment. And for that, he basically discovered that the electron carries a quanta of electric charge, and you can't have less than one electron and less than the charge of one electron. You either have an extra electron or you don't.
Gotcha.
You can't have half an electron, hanging on the oil drop.
And before that, they didn't understand. They didn't know that how electrons create electricity.
I don't know. I'm not sure if he understood. I'm not sure when the electron was formally discovered, because he was basically working with electric charge.
Mm-hmm.
At what point they decided that the electron was the carrier of the charge, that I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at my science history, because I don't know when that happened.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
science history is very fascinating.
it's also tied up with what Einstein got the Nobel Prize for, which was the photoelectric effect, that a photon can kick an electron out. Either kicks a whole electron out or none. And that same quantization was the photoelectric effect. So sometime, I guess maybe around 1903 or 05 or whenever it was, this was where they were beginning to suspect that there was a particle that carried the quanta of electric charge. And so the photoelectric effect and the Millikan experiment somehow together, and the ultraviolet catastrophe was part of the mathematics that was making people scratch their heads. So I'm going to say it was around 1900 to 1910, but don't ask me to nail it down beyond pointing out the experiments that were decisive, definitive. Photoelectric
And
Millikan.
I'm wondering, Niels Bohr was from, I know he was knighted in England, but where was he from again? Niels Bohr was,
I thought he was Scandinavian. Wasn't he Scandinavian?
I think, yeah, I think so. Well, Bohr, yeah, it sounds Scandinavian.
And he had this first model of the nucleus and the electrons in simple orbits. He had the Bohr orbital model, which turned out to be the orbits of the Bohr model were the average position of the electron. And then later, when they had the electrons were clouds, the Bohr atom put the electron at the median or mean location within their cloud. And that was the Bohr orbits. And that also tied into de Broglie because the circumference of the Bohr orbitals were integers of the de Broglie wavelength of the electron. So it's like putting garlands around a Christmas tree. You have the garlands that are waving. When it comes back around the other side, they have to mate. Otherwise, you have a cockeyed wave. So when you make a wave of garlands around the Christmas tree, they've got to come back together so that it's continuous. Integer number of sinusoids. So you can have one sinusoid, two sinusoids, three sinusoids, around. And that basically was the same idea as the electrons in the orbitals. There was one de Broglie wavelength, two de Broglie wavelengths, three de Broglie wavelengths.
Sam said I'll be right back.
Oh. And when I learned that, I think with high school physics, I thought that was just an astonishing insight that you had the de Broglie wavelengths of electrons and particles, and that they had to be an integer number of wavelengths in a confined space. So Bohr, de Broglie, and others, I guess, all sort of zeroed in on that model.
Yeah, I don't know my history well enough. I remember reading some book telling me that there were, I think somewhere, I've seen a picture of it. It's about 30 different scientists that made a list of all the things they didn't know. And I think this is around that time, like after World War II, 1920, somewhere around that time. Like, I think Einstein was in there. I know Niels Bohr was in there. And there was a whole bunch of others. But it seems like there was some sort of beautiful coalescence of, we figured out a new set of science, so now let's go deeper into it. The quantum
might have been the Solvay conference. The Solvay conference was the famous one in the 1920s, where all the famous physicists of their era showed up, and they basically worked out what they knew and what they didn't know. Might have come out of that.
I'm curious if the German scientists were involved in that too, the ones that ended up participating in World War II in Germany.
Oh, well, of course, Einstein was from Germany, and then we're talking about 1920s. So this is after the First World War and before the Second. So
yeah, I'm just curious how that technology ramped up to the point where in the 1930s they decided that they had the technology to go to war with the entire world.
Well, that's also because they had an autocrat, and the autocrat basically makes a decision that may or may not have been a committee. A committee would not have made that decision, but an autocrat can. This is the main problem of autocracy: is you don't have a committee that throttles you from making a plausible but unwise decision.
Yeah, or the ability to work on projects that are by committee. It's directed projects to.
It works both ways. I mean, the lone entrepreneur versus the committee. Sometimes the lone entrepreneur will be on the right track ahead of everybody else, and they will not be making a mistake. And sometimes they will be making a mistake. The ones you hear about are the ones where they weren't making a mistake.
Yeah.
All the others fall by the wayside. They don't make the history books.
Yeah, that's an interesting time. I need to go back and research a little more.
Well, yeah, and the introduction of quantum mechanics, quantum electrodynamics, and quantum chromodynamics, which was all I think that was in the 60s, 70s. I forget exactly. I mean, it was over a period of 30 or 40 years in the middle of the 20th century. And that was a very heady period. I mean, Feynman got the Nobel Prize for quantum chromodynamics.
What year was that he got the Nobel Prize?
I'd have to look it up. It might have been in the 70s. Remember, they're typically awarded 20 years after, the event that they're cited for.
Gotcha.
I mean, Einstein never got a Nobel Prize for relativity. He got the Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect in 1905, I think it was. That's when he did it. He got the Nobel Prize for an important, but not the most important thing he did. Never got it for relativity.
Do you think that they privatized science after World War II in order to make sure that people couldn't get their hands on this information?
Well, a lot of the science became so expensive that it had to be funded by public funding. So once you had public funding, then it was really up to the governments to decide what they were going to invest in. There were still some technologies that could be done by private enterprises, but the big science, the really big science, was too expensive to be done, except maybe by universities.
So universities still have to be funded too by not just their donors.
Well, I mean, things like astronomy, universities could afford to build astronomical observatories, for example, or they could afford to maybe build a nuclear pile. But a lot of that stuff became so resource intense and expensive that more and more it had to be a national or international funding activity, conglomerates.
Yeah,
I mean, even the technology, wasn't USB and all this stuff done by conglomerates that were multiple, Microsoft and Apple and Google and whoever, had to pool their resources to develop some of the more recent communication technologies because they had to be a standard.
Yeah.
So
HDMI. That's interesting.
I think, things like HDMI, USB, I'm pretty sure they were done by conglomerates.
Yeah, I worked for the largest paper company in the world. And at the time I worked there, they spent, I think it was 24 million to open up a research center in Virginia. And my boss had to head up that research center. And so we lost her for a while. But the amount of money that it takes to innovate, to create new patents that can carry the company through the hard times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look what it costs to build a fat lab for circuit. I mean, those are billions of dollars in the fat labs and all.
Yeah, I'm sort of blown away. I don't know if you're following the news right now, but the Elon Musk with his two companies, and he just started a third one. So he has two big ones, which is Twitter is one and Tesla is the other. But he's trying to compete with Google and Perplexity and all these, different AI companies that are spending a lot of money, the Facebooks or Meta, whatever you want to call it now.
Yeah.
They're opening up a large server in Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh.
And they're spending quite a bit of money to this I don't know, this AI race just feels a little bit like
it is a race.
It's a race for sure. I'm just not sure. Like, okay, so NVIDIA comes out with this Blackwell chip. That's their latest chip. And they're going on the market, I guess, next year. And so whoever has the most money to place orders for these chips can do the things like you're talking about, the GlobalSIM project, which is Earth 2. And those type of projects, if you dump enough money into it and can get enough information that's viable to actually change architecture because they're calculating wind flows and it's a really interesting time is what I'm trying to say. It feels like whatever comes out of this.
It'll also be hard for the average layperson, even a well-educated layperson. It's increasingly hard. I got to the point where I couldn't follow atomic physics because it was getting so, I mean, the subatomic particle stuff was getting to the point where I could pick up a copy of Scientific American and it was over my head. I couldn't parse it. And, it got to the point where only the experts in the field could understand the frontier work.
Yeah.
We also needed a science interpreter, and the science interpreters were struggling.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't understand what's going on right now. I try to do a deep dive in how transformers work, and I barely grasp the understanding of it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to how they're like, I have friends that are doing different weightings to see how their transformers will, interact. And to me, the biggest thing to solve is in sound engineering, if you can take out the actual sound. They have a video that came out this week where a guy is showing off this AI technology from 11 Labs where he's blowing a giant like vacuum into someone's face while he's talking with a microphone, and then they're isolating his voice versus the background noise.
Yeah.
And so that technology to me is if you can utilize something to detect enough information, be able to take out that information and keep what you want.
Take the whisper out of the jet roar. Can you pick up the whisper and block out the jet roar?
Yeah, that's actually the name of one of the models is Whisper.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point. Can you detect a whisper in the background of a jet roar?
Yeah, well, to me that goes to this was a big thing about 15 years ago, is they were taking video of the vibration of a piece of paper in a room and trying to detect what a person was saying by how the paper was vibrating.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, after all, a microphone and speaker, that was a vibrating cone of paper. And you could use a dynamic speaker as a microphone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I have an app called Solar Walk. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's a way to calculate all the known bodies in the solar system.
Oh,
So it's got a timer at the top, and you can go reverse or forward in time and see where all the planets and moons and stars are.
orrery. So it's a mathematical orrery.
Yeah, how accurate it is, I don't know, but
Well, yeah, the thing is,
supposedly,
if you go
yeah.
back more than a day or two, you probably wouldn't be able to validate it. Unless you
Well,
had.
here's my question. Do you think they'll ever do you ever play with Google Earth? I don't know if you ever.
Used to a lot, not so much anymore.
Okay, because they had a feature I didn't know they had. My friend showed me. I guess there are satellite images going back to the 1950s or whenever they launched the first satellites.
Yeah, crude, low resolution satellites. Yeah.
Crude low resolution, but it's enough to do a time frame on Google Earth where you can go back to an area and see different pictures to see the way rivers are being shaped
Oh yeah,
and the
sure.
different.
Now you can see geological change over a less than a century time scale.
Yeah, I guess to me that's the biggest change that I see in just human understanding is the ability to visually show an accurate map of changes in time.
Yeah, I remember slow motion photography showing a plant growing and a flower blooming. It's sped up in time. That slow mo and sped up of the clouds moving. Those were, when those first became available, they were really remarkable. You could
Yeah, you
actually
mean
see
time
the plant.
lapse?
Sorry.
Time lapse photography?
Yeah, time lapse photography, sped up and slowed down. See the ones that show the clouds moving in the sky,
Oh yeah.
or the ones that show a plant emerging out of the soil and growing up and blooming. When those first came out, I think that was probably in the 60s, 50s or 60s, that they began showing those on television. Those are pretty remarkable time lapse photography.
Yeah, I just found a gentleman that spent 20 years taking pictures of different seeds growing different plants
Yeah, yeah.
with really high resolution. And it's some of the most beautiful thing I've ever watched. And
You
I was
see,
talking, yeah, I was talking to Cusella. We have some old spaghetti jars. And if we plant the seeds in the spaghetti jar where you can see the, with the glass around, we could do the same time lapse photography.
Hitchcock made a famous movie, Rear Window, where a photographer was taking pictures out the rear window of the apartment building and saw that plants in the garden were not in the same place as they were the day before. And that led to the solving of a murder mystery.
I saw that movie. That's a good movie.
Came out in the 50s, I think.
Yeah, where you think someone's committed a murder.
Yeah, it was a murder. And was it Cary Grant or Gregory Peck? I can't remember which one played
it was Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart. Yeah, that's right. Jimmy Stewart was the photographer. He was in a cast, so he was stuck in the apartment because he was convalescing. And he saw that the next day's pictures, the plants were there, but they were in the wrong place. They had been moved.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm so fascinated. I don't hear anyone talking about. I've mentioned it to you a few times, Barry. Deb Roy at the Media Lab at MIT.
I knew him. Yeah, I knew him.
You told me. You told me you knew him, and I thought his work. Out of all the I've watched probably over at least 1,500 TED Talks. I was a little obsessed. Every morning I would wake up. That was my first thing I did in the morning was watch the latest couple TED Talks, and that one struck me as odd because after he did the birth of the word with his son, the people in his lab said, if we can take this much data and process it, could we overlay every TV show that's currently on TV? And it was at the time when Obama was president. So he said, can we do the State of the Union address and in real time look at every tweet and every social media post relating to that, and then go ahead and create graphs? So this is right about the time when graph technology was coming out for databases. And they did it and they showed it. And visually, when you see how it's weighted of all the popular opinion, to me, that was a light bulb that went off and said, okay, if the government has that technology, meaning the person running for office, they know in real time what consensus is with enough data to tell you what to say at the end of the meeting. So someone could whisper into Obama's ear and say, this is what people thought.
Uh-oh. Joshua just froze. See if he comes back. He has the issue where his satellites are moving out of range because he's on satellite internet. He has to wait for the next one to come into range.
Well, he's on Starlink, but I'm on Starlink also.
Yeah, but the thing is that he's in a different part of California or a different part of the West Coast than you are. So the satellite that he's using is not the same one you're using.
There should be fewer people contending for the same bandwidth in a remote area.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's probably a bit haphazard as to how many satellites are within range of your location at any one day of the year, time of day.
Yeah.
We lost him altogether.
Yep.
He'll probably come back in a minute or two. But it is 25 minutes past the end of the second hour.
Yeah, so I'm going to go do two of those three things that I said. I'm going to write up my CCC to Eric. I'm going to go view Sapolsky's videos, and I'm going to write up this thing about GlobalSIM. I've got 3 homework assignments I've assigned to myself.
Yeah. Well, do you want to wait to see if Joshua comes back, or just if he doesn't come back in a few minutes, I guess then maybe we're done.
All right, let's wait till 25 after. That's about another 80 seconds, okay?
Yeah.
And if not, then I'm willing to call it a day.
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I have been sitting here for 2 hours and 25 minutes. So. And Kayla did not come back. Oh, he's back.
I'm sorry, my phone overheated. It was so hot out there that the temperature overheated the phone.
Oh, so we misdiagnosed it. We thought you lost your satellite hub.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. Hold on one second. Yeah, no.
Like I said, I'm going to go do some of my homework assignments now.
Okay. Well, I'll okay. Yeah, I'm going to find that little clip of that video and I'll show it to you guys next time we talk. I'll show you that clip because I thought it was quite innovative for 2012. And want to say hi?
Hiya.
Are you eating something? She's eating something. She got food in her mouth. Nom 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 nom. Nom 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 nom.
What a cutie.
Football.
What is it?
Football.
Oh, fig bar. She's got a fig bar.
Big bar.
Fig bar. Yummy. All right, Barry. Well, yeah, let's definitely talk. I would love to like look at, have you looked at Earth 2 yet? I heard you guys talking about GlobalSIM.
Well, I don't think I know what Earth 2 is.
If you go to, just type in Google NVIDIA Earth 2, and it will bring you to their page. It's a global sim of all the weather patterns on Earth.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I haven't looked at it, but okay. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. That, the robot world, I forgot what they called that. I'm trying to go back in my brain. They have a name for testing robots in the virtual space and a few other. In other words, they're doing a few big projects for. I think those need to be taken up by all the countries on Earth, and everyone should work together because those things could change everything. And if we all own it together,
Collaborology. If we could get more of governments to collaborate on frontiers of discovery, learning, and less on defending ourselves.
this is our guinea pig.
Oh, that looks like a recognizable character. Is that Lamb Chop?
No, it's Mama Maggie. I got her from the shop and her so soft. Soon that baby's gonna arrive. Baby's are in her tummy when they wait 2 seconds, a baby's gonna arrive.
There's batteries inside of it, and there's babies are going to come out of this thing.
Oh, so what's the name of the character?
Hello Kitty, Melody, and Cologne.
Those are other people. This is Mama Maggie, is what she calls it.
Mama Maggie. Is that her name for it, or is that the? You don't know.
Oh no, I'm learning. So, did you call him Mama Maggie, or is that the name that they said?
That's the name that he didn't say. This is Mama Maggie. Stop. And I'll show you something else to come and tell you.
Do you have a second, Barry? She wants to show you something else. I don't know. She's
a little hard to understand. Not quite. Parsing.
Yeah, she has a big bar in her mouth too. That's not helping. But
Here you go.
Oh, thank you. She's showing you that there's a comb for the Mama Maggie.
And that'll be yummy.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. What's most amazing is Aya knows the name for every little plastic toy she has.
Oh, I see.
So this is the comb.
It's the comb, combing the mane.
Yeah. Ooh, Mama Maggie likes it.
Yeah.
Does she make little noises?
Her make her paws and her heartbeats. Wow, her made a noise.
Oh, she made a noise. I don't know, Barry. Yay! All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys later. Let's
maybe see you tomorrow if you're on. Otherwise, next week.
Oh,
sounds good.
You're welcome.
You're
Have
welcome.
a good one.
Want to say goodbye?
No.
Bye.
Thank you, Sam. Bye, Barry.
Bye. All right, Sam. We're ending at just shy of 30 minutes past the second hour.